Do you often find that at the end of the day, you look at your task list and think, I didn't complete anything today? Well, I want to show you today a little trick that you can use that's going to help you to get focused on getting maybe not all of your tasks completed every day. That's probably going to be impossible, but a way that you can categorize the tasks that you're doing into a few broad categories so that you can take advantage of something called batch processing and time blocking. Now, before we get into this, I want you to try a little experiment. Look at all the tasks that you did yesterday and look at what kind of tasks you were completing. Now, if you're like most people, you're going to find that round about 40% of the tasks in your task list are related in some way or another to communication. You'll also find that round about 40% of the tasks in your task list are relating to administrative tasks. You know, little things like book flight tickets, check this, do my expense report. All these little admin tasks that are basically just building up. They're not urgent, well, not yet, and they don't really have any day specific. They don't have to be done today. They can be done tomorrow, or perhaps maybe at a push they can be done next week. Now the problem is, all of these tasks start building up because, well, really, they're low value, but they do need to be done. But if somebody emails you or somebody messages you or you get a phone call or your boss asks you to go into a meeting last minute, well, these tasks can be pushed off to one side. I'll worry about them later. The trouble is, we never find that later time. But there is a way that you can do this, and I'm going to show you how to do it using your calendar. So let's go into, well, this week Todoist and Apple Calendar, because I'm always asked what apps am I using. Well, in this particular example, I'm going to use Todoist and Apple Calendar, and it's going to show you how you can do it, but you can do this in Outlook, To Do, you could do this in Google Calendar and whatever task manager you're using. It's not so much a tool-based tutorial this week, it's more about a system that you can follow that's really going to help you stay on top of all these tasks. Okay, so in my Todoist right here, we have a typical day's worth of tasks. Now, in here I've got 11, so it's a manageable number of tasks. And really what I need to do is just decide what needs to happen today. Now, if we look at this, now I've already pre-labeled these just to help us with this video, but if you look at this, I've got 6 tasks related to administrative tasks, and these are all kind of related to communications. I've also got down here an admin task. These two are for some reason in my inbox. So first of all, I can go into Todoist, I can just go in here. These for me would be moved to this week because this is when it's going to happen. So let's just move those to this week. And that's jobs done. So if we look at this list now, I've got 11 tasks right here. And what I can do in Todoist, and this is for Todoist users, what I can do is, first of all, I can separate these out. And this will help me to demonstrate what I mean by this. If I organize or group by label, you can now see that in this particular case, this is the work that I do. So I'm doing a YouTube video. So I have audio visual, and then we've got communications, and then I've got admin. But out of these tasks today, if you look at it, of the 11 tasks, I've got 6 communication tasks, 8 admin tasks. Out of 11, that's just a little under 80% of my tasks today. Now, the problem that you will find, and most people do find, is that's great, I've got all my tasks organized. The problem we have is, where am I going to find the time to do these tasks? Because if I go into my communication tasks here, follow up Honey Rider, do I really need to do that today? Maybe, but in most cases, if I don't do it today, it's not a big problem. Similarly, invite guests for podcasts. Let's say I could do that any day this week. Set up date night with my wife. Well, that's probably quite an easy task because next time I see her, say, are you available on Saturday for blah, blah, blah. And then clear my action this day folder. This is related to my email, my actionable email. Again, I like to do that every day, but would it matter if it did the world end? No, probably not. But that is actually where the problem is, because the urgency factor in generally these tasks are not as high as your boss asking you to have a meeting with him or her this afternoon at 2 o'clock. Well, I was wanting to do my email or I wanted to do my admin at that time, but okay, I've got to have a meeting with my boss because they're demanding it right now. Well, what's going to happen to these tasks if that meeting lasts 2 hours? Often they do. Now we're at 4 o'clock and we've got a load of other stuff to do, and before we know it, it's 5:30, 6 p.m. and we've got to go home. So how do we manage this how do we stop this from happening? Well, the first thing to do is I'm going to open up my calendar. As I mentioned before, I'm using here Apple Calendar. And this would be a typical week for me. And I know it's going to be different from you, but it would be a typical week for me. And what you'll see is the critical ones are this one here and this one here. I've got communication time and I've got admin time. Now, what I've been able to do is to identify the quietest times in my day. These are the days where I'm not actually getting many emails coming in, and it means I can have a quiet time. 7 p.m. for admin time is perfect for me. It's after dinner. I'm not yet ready to do anything like focused work, so I can do the admin time after dinner. You may prefer to do your admin time during working hours. This is entirely up to you. But what we're doing here essentially now is all I need to do is fix this into my calendar. I have an hour every single day to do my admin and communication. Now, Wednesday, in my case, I usually have family time on a Wednesday afternoon. So I try to get everything done in the morning before I head out. Now, as you can see, it's 11:52 and I've done my communication admin time early. We don't have to do this, strictly speaking. I can move these around, and in this case, I'm doing my videos now, and I did my communication admin a little earlier this morning. And usually on a Thursday, I have communication. I do coaching calls in the morning. So essentially, what I've managed to do here is I have got time booked out every single day for doing these tasks that need to be done. Now, if I follow my calendar with these 2 hours every single day, the admin and communication, then I am going to be getting, I would say, at least 90% of these tasks done every single day. So the problem that people are facing, though, is that they're not allocating time on their calendar for doing this kind of work. Well, if you don't allocate time for it, I can promise you your time is going to get caught up with something else. There's always something else. Now, the problem, of course, is that people will say, oh, I need to talk to you at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Can you attend this meeting at 4? Can you do this? Can you do that? And we're having to move things. We're suddenly saying, yeah, communication time, I can sacrifice that. Well, can you? Because if you keep sacrificing your communication time, what's going to happen? You're now going to start building backlogs. So something will break. Either you don't do the meeting, you apologize and say, well, I could do a different time, or you start moving these around so that you can fit them into your day. Now, once you've got this set up and you've got the time allocated to doing the work that needs to be done, what I'm going to recommend next is the game changer. Now, most people will not do this. You know why? Because we're afraid to say no. We're afraid to negotiate. We think our boss is going to fire us just because we ask if we can do a meeting at a different time. Well, that's not going to happen. Your boss is not going to fire you because you're doing your work. All you're doing is renegotiating a time for meeting. Clients and customers they're human beings. They don't demand that you meet them at the time that they specify. You can negotiate with them. In fact, I've found that when you do negotiate with people, you get a lot more respect from your clients and your customers. The thing is, we're afraid of doing that. the thing is, if you don't do it, you're never going to be able to get on top of your work. You may as well forget subscribing to all these wonderful tools and apps and just let other people control your day, because effectively that's what you're doing if you're not taking control of your day. Now, that's the rant. I've got the rant out of the way. Let's move on into this. Now, what I would suggest you do is you create a template, a weekly template in your calendar. Now, what I've done here, and I do this is fixed for me every week. This is just a demo calendar, but essentially I actually also have these times blocked off every week because these are critical to the work that I do, but that's for another video. What I'm dealing with here is 80% of the tasks that are in your task manager that you are kicking down the road all the time because you're allowing other things to take control. What I've done here, as you can see, is in this calendar, these are my essentially non-negotiable blocks of time, if you like. So I've got my morning routines. If I don't do them, my day falls apart. I've just learnt that lesson. If I don't do my morning routines, seriously, my day will just fall apart. This is where I get to focus in on what matters today. Then, always at 4 o'clock, I do my communication time. Now, if you look at my calendar for this week, generally speaking, I do my exercise at 2 o'clock, and then I do any errands that need to be done around the house, but I keep that a little bit more flexible. At 4 o'clock, I will sit down and do my email. I love that time. I put some music on and I just get on and do the email. Generally speaking, it doesn't take an hour. It probably takes about 35, 45 minutes. But I always allocate an hour because there are those days where it does genuinely take an hour. And so you can see here that I've actually got all my times blocked off. They are in my calendar. Now, initially, when you set this up, you've probably got meetings at this time, so it's going to take a little bit of time to actually filter through. But if you stick with this and you get committed to doing this, I can promise you that all these tasks here, which generally will end up being overdue because they don't really have that tight deadline of somebody screaming at you saying, I must meet you today, they generally get pushed off and pushed off and pushed off. Well, if you do this and you stick to this, I can assure you that you're going to be getting 80% of your tasks done every day because you've allocated the time to get these tasks done. It's a really simple method. However, it can be difficult to implement because other people are demanding your time. And that's when you can go in and you can just say, all right, I've got meeting all day Wednesday afternoon. That means I'm going to have to do my admin. I'm going to do my communications at 10 a.m. on Wednesday. You know, you can do all these things if you like, but you just make sure that those times are fixed in your day. That means you are getting your work done. You'll always be on top of your work and you're minimizing the risk of building up backlog. Now, I know most people will always challenge me on this thing. I can't do this. Well, if that's the way you think, you've lost already. You've got to find a way that this is going to work because ultimately, none of this gets done unless you allocate time to it. You've got to find the time to do it. Now, batching them together, as I do here, as you say, in Todoist, you can group things together by just going to the layout or the sort by function up at the top. You can group and sort by however way you want to do it. So this means that you are pretty much set up. You can do this. Now, for those of you who are more visual in Todoist, you can actually change this to a board so you can see your work in a board. I'm more linear thinking, so I prefer to see mine as a list. But basically now I know that at 4 o'clock this afternoon, it won't be because I've got a family time this afternoon, but this morning when I was doing my admin tasks in my real Todoist, I actually managed to clear off all my admin tasks today and get 90% of my communication done. And I can repeat that tomorrow. And the urgency of these go up, but I'm batch processing. And the great thing about batch processing is you get started and then you just get going. So there you go. Hopefully this video has given you some ideas. It's a great way. It really does work, but you've got to stick with it and you're going to be a little bit disciplined and courageous to make sure that you're renegotiating times when people want to meet you, but don't be afraid of that. Try it one day. You're not going to lose your job just by renegotiating a meeting time. Okay, now if you want to learn more about getting the most out of the calendar, how to get your calendar organized, then I would suggest this video up here is the next video you watch.